So today we're going to begin part 2 of the word project. So this is where we left off at the end of project part 1. We have our brushes all made and they're stored away in our brush panel. So I'll just remind you that's under window brushes. Here they are waiting for me. I'm not ready for them yet, so I'm just going to close it for now. So at this point, this is where you need the photograph of the person that you created the words for. So I am using my sister. So now what we're going to do is we're going to eliminate the background and isolate the subject. So I'm going to unlock the background layer to create layer 0. Then I'm going to use a selection tool of my choice. I'm going to start with the quick selection for this one. I'm just clicking and drag to paint a selection, holding down Option or Alt to clean it up. And then when my selection looks pretty good, I'm going to go to Select Inverse and hit Delete. Okay, now you should see checkerboard. Checkerboard indicates transparency. So at this point, I'm going to deselect, shortcut Command or Control D, or select deselect. Okay, so now I have my subject ready to roll, and there is a lot of steps to this, so you really got to make sure that you are doing them precisely. So the next part is we're going to go to Select Color Range, and we're going to choose midtones from the drop-down menu. So once you have selected midtones, you're going to see a preview down here of the area it's selecting. You can always adjust it by dragging the sliders, but basically you're just going to click OK, and then you are going to use the shortcut Command or Control J as in jump to copy the midtone selection to a new layer. So you can see if I hide it here, there's my midtones that I just did. Now you're going to go back to layer 0, the bottom layer. I'm going to just name this portrait to make it easier to refer to. So you're going to go back to your portrait layer, and you're going to go to select again, and this time color range again. This time you are going to choose shadows, and you're going to click OK. So now I have the shadows selected. I'm going to do shortcut Command or Control J as in jump, and it now copied my shadows to its own layer. Okay, so now I have the midtones and the shadows divided to their own layers. And now I'm going to hide the portrait layer in the layer panel by clicking the eye. This will show me what I'm primarily going to be working with. Now in some cases, if yours is questionable or doesn't show enough of the face, you could do midtones and highlights, or midtones and basically. So, but for most people this should work out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to merge the top 2 layers together. So we're going to hold down Command, click on layer 1 and layer 2, and merge together with shortcut Control or Command E as in egg. When we merge these together, we're going to name this the shadows layer. So now we have the portrait layer and the shadows layer. We want to make sure we're still on our shadows layer, and we're going to create 2 new layers using our new layer button at the bottom of our layer panel. So I'm going to click new layer, and we're going to fill both of these new layers with white. So we're going to use a shortcut to do this, but first we want to set our foreground and background colors to our default black and white using the D key, D as in dog. Okay, now that we have done that, we are going to use shortcut Command Delete to fill layer 2, and Command Delete or Control Delete if you're on a PC to fill both layer 1 and layer 2 with white. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to click on our shadows layer and we're going to select everything on that layer. Now currently the eyeballs are on for the top 2 layers, so even though I'm on the shadow layer you can't see anything, no big deal. We're going to select everything. The shortcut is Command or Control A as in Apple, or select all through the menu. After we have done that, we are going to copy, edit copy, or Command or Control C to copy. And now we are going to select layer 2, which is our top layer, and we are going to add a layer mask. We've been using layer masks often. That is at the bottom of the layer panel, looks like a little rectangle with the circle right here. So we're going to add a layer mask. Now this part is slightly tricky, so you got to be really careful as you do this. You're going to hold down Option on the Mac, Alt on the PC, and you are going to click inside the layer thumbnail, and then you are going to paste. So edit paste or Command or Control V as in victory, and that will paste that whatever you had copied from the shadows layer after you selected all into the layer mask. Now at this point we're going to deselect, Command D as in dog or Control D if you're on the PC. And if you're looking at mine, you can see that it kind of shifted a little bit. So I'm going to grab the Move tool and just shift my image over a bit. You may or may not need to do that. If yours is fine, don't worry about it. Okay, now we're going to invert our what we have on here using shortcut Command I or Control I if you're on a PC. Now we're going to click on the layer 2 thumbnail instead of the mask. So currently we're on the thumbnail and the mask. Now we're going to click on the thumbnail. When you click on the thumbnail, your project should look completely white. Now this is where you're going to start your project using your brushes that you created in part 1. But before you do that, I want to talk to you about this kind of secret key that is really going to be helpful for this project. So on your keyboard, if you find the delete key or the backspace key, right directly under that, above the return or enter key, there is a key. It's like the backslash key, or I'm not sure what the other one is. If you hit that key, it's going to show you the area that is masked off. Now this is really important. You can toggle on and off as you work, because you will not be seeing the actual photo as you're working. So this is going to allow you to see where your brush or your stamps will show up. So now I'm going to go to Window, Brushes, and I'm going to pull up my brush menu. I'm going to move it over a little so I can just kind of see what I'm working with. Now, don't worry about the colors until the end. So at the end we add a gradient and then we pop some of the words out larger in different colors, so don't worry about that until the end. So I'm going to begin stamping, and you're going to really be varying the size of your letters. So as you see where I'm stamping, the word is only going to show up in the area that is white. So it's acting as a mask. It is a mask, and it's only going to let you stamp or paint in the white areas. So as you go, you're going to be, it's really key to this project that your text is very dense. You want to overlap it. And you can keep checking periodically. To see how your project's coming out. When you'll know you're done when you can actually see the shape of the person in the words. You really have to layer and get the words really close together a ton before you actually will have finished. So you can check it by hitting, so you can see, you might think, oh, I'm done, and then you check it by hitting that magic button under the delete and above the return key, and you can see that, wow, this doesn't look like my sister at all yet. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of move us forward a little bit. I have one that I've been working on before, so I'm gonna transfer into that to show you a little bit further along in the process. Okay, so now you can see how I was layering in the eye to really make it darker and to show that. But this still, if I hit my magic key, you can really see that it's still not even nearly done. So this does take a while, and you do want to be careful. As you are working on it, you want to continually make sure that you are on the layer thumbnail, which is right here, and not on the mask. If by chance you would ever need to start over completely, you could just fill your layer 2 mask in with white, and that would allow you to begin again. But you don't want to do that unless you really mess up big time and need to. Okay, so I'm going to work on this for a while, and I'll fast forward it through and then pick back up for the last few steps. Again, this part that I'm doing right now, this probably is going to take, I would say, 2 days on average. Some people less, some people more, but on average. And remember, if you just step back, you can, of course, step back. If you need to step back, you can use your history panel, or Command Z or Control Z as in zipper is your shortcut to step back one time. Okay, so I'm going to continue to work on this, and I'll pick back up for the final steps. Okay, so now we're pretty much done here with our projects. Now again, as you're going, you really want to overlay the words quite a lot, and you want to keep hitting that magic key to kind of see how you're doing. Now I could go in and add some more words on here. Really, the areas that you want to kind of focus on and make sure that you can see really well are the areas that are the most dense are your facial features. So you want to make sure around your eyes, your nose, your mouth, that it's nice and overlapping so that you can make them out. So if I hit the magic key, you can see that's pretty good. I could go a little bit more, but for the purpose of for demoing, I think this is pretty good. Okay, so now we're gonna do the last few steps. We're gonna go to layer. We're gonna go to layer style. Then we're going to go to gradient overlay. Layer style, gradient overlay. Okay, now right here where it says gradient, you know we've got all of these different gradients to choose from. So you can go through and pick one that you like. Let me try this one. Now, after you have chosen your gradient, this where the blend mode is, this is very important. You're going to change this to say screen. You might actually, I think it might be actually a better idea to change your blend mode first, and then you can go in and it will allow you to kind of test out the gradients better. So I wish I would have done that first. So I do recommend that you first put your blending mode right there on screen, and then you can go in and choose your gradient. So I'm just kind of testing them out, make sure I have the one that I want to go with. Okay, I think I'll go with this one. So I'm going to click OK when I'm satisfied, and then OK. You could, if you want, drop the opacity down a little bit. So So you can kind of play around with that as well too. And then you're gonna say okay. Now at this point, we're gonna pop out some words. So the words that I'm gonna pop, I'm gonna do this on separate layers, or at least one separate layer. So I'm gonna make a new layer at the top. And I'm gonna pick some of my words that I really want to stand out. So I'm gonna do thoughtful first. Now this is the part where the color counts. So I'm gonna sample whatever color I want this word to be. I'm gonna do some colors that I think will complement. And then I am going to just do one nice stamp over top to pop it out. So, and then I'm actually gonna go in and add a little drop shadow on that too. Nothing too crazy, just pop it out a little bit. Now I'm gonna go in with a couple more words. I'm gonna do creative. Now if you want to, you can even sample your color from a different part of your design using the color picker. And since I didn't make a new layer. I could make a new layer, but since this is on that same layer, it's gonna have that same drop shadow. I'm gonna do a couple more. So I'm gonna switch to intelligent. I'm gonna click and sample. And adjust my size. And maybe one or two more still. Want to do animal advocate. See, now I've gone to sampling from the colors I used in my gradient. Now I can't see that very good, so I'm going to step back, delete it, and try a different color. Just going to go a little bit darker. There we go, that's a little bit better. And then I'm going to do kind. And that's just to make some of the words stand out a little bit more. I'm gonna make it a little bit darker again. There we go. Okay, now at this point, when you're satisfied, if you wanted to on layer 1, you could add a background color. Some people will want to, some people won't. I'll show you what that looks like. So I just chose like a lilac, a light purple, and now I'm gonna grab my paint bucket tool, and I'm just gonna fill that in there. So in some cases it will complement, sometimes some of you won't want to. I really like it better with the white, so I'm gonna leave it as so. Now at this point, when you are all completely finished, you're going to flatten it, layer, flatten image. It's gonna say, do you want to discard the hidden layers? That's the main image you started with. Just click OK, and then you're gonna do File, Save As.